The order is already moving. It exists before it is read, before it is acknowledged, before it is understood. It travels in identical copies, stamped, timed, and logged, each version indistinguishable from the last. Its language is precise. Its structure is familiar. It contains no uncertainty, no conditional phrasing, no space for interpretation. It does not ask. It instructs. It passes through hands trained to receive it without reaction. It is read once, sometimes twice, then folded back into its envelope or returned to its folder. A mark is made beside a line. A time is confirmed. A signature is added where a signature is expected. Nothing more is required. There is no discussion around it. None is permitted. The order is not introduced as a proposal or a plan. It arrives as a fact. Its authority is assumed, embedded in its format, reinforced by repetition. Those who handle it have processed hundreds like it before. They recognize the cadence, the phrasing, the finality. The order moves downward, step by step, following channels designed to prevent delay. Each transfer is clean. Each acknowledgement is immediate. The system functions as intended. No deviations, no clarifications requested, no adjustments suggested. Time is attached to the order, but not urgency. It does not rush. It advances at a controlled pace, synchronized with schedules already in place. The clocks align. The procedures match. Everything fits. Those who receive it do not consider its origin. That is not their role. They do not imagine alternatives. That is not their function. They ensure accuracy. They ensure compliance. They ensure the order continues moving. The wording allows no flexibility. Every action is defined. Every response is anticipated. It accounts for coordination, alignment, and sequence. It assumes the environment will conform as required. It assumes conditions will remain stable. It assumes obedience will be absolute. And obedience is the only variable the system trusts. There is no visible tension as the order progresses. No raised voices. No hurried corrections. The atmosphere remains calm, almost routine. This is not an exception. This is process. The order reaches its final distribution points intact. No lines crossed out. No amendments added. No margins filled with notes. It is complete. It is ready. Once released, it cannot be recalled without initiating a separate procedure. That procedure has not been initiated. There is no indication that the system has accepted the order. It has integrated it. It has scheduled it. From this point forward, everything that follows will be a consequence of precision. The outcome is no longer a possibility. It is already the environment in which the order operates is designed for clarity. Every space has a purpose. Every role is defined. Movement follows prescribed paths, both physical and procedural. Information flows vertically, never diagonally. Authority is not negotiated. It is inherited through position. At the top of the structure, decisions are abstract. They exist as language, symbols, and timing. They are converted into instructions before they encounter people. By the time the order begins its descent, it is no longer a thought. It is a mechanism. Each level below receives only what is necessary to act. Context is filtered out as excess. Explanation is unnecessary. The system does not reward curiosity. It rewards accuracy. Personnel are trained to recognize this separation early. From the beginning, they learn that understanding is optional, but execution is mandatory. The structure depends on this distinction. If every level required full comprehension, the system would slow. Delays would multiply. Authority would fracture. So comprehension is centralized. Execution is distributed. The order passes through desks, rooms, vehicles, and checkpoints, always accompanied by routine. It is logged, stamped, time-checked, and forwarded. Each interaction is brief. No one lingers over. Lingering suggests uncertainty. Uncertainty suggests inefficiency. Hierarchy removes the need for deliberation. Each person involved knows exactly where their responsibility begins and ends. The boundary is sharp. Crossing it is discouraged. Remaining within it is praised. When the order reaches operational layers, it does not arrive as a question of feasibility. It arrives as a schedule. Preparations begin immediately, not because the outcome is desired, but because the process demands continuation. Equipment is allocated according to predefined tables. Personnel are assigned according to availability, not suitability. Adjustments would require justification. Justification would require explanation. Explanation would imply doubt. Doubt is disruptive. The structure absorbs complexity by dividing it. No single individual sees the order in its entirety. Each sees only a segment, framed by task and timing. The absence of a complete picture is not considered a flaw. It is considered a safeguard. If one segment fails to understand the larger implication, it is irrelevant. The system assumes coherence, emerges from alignment, not insight. Communication remains formal. Language is standardized to avoid misinterpretation. Tone is neutral. Emotion is absent. The order does not change as it moves. It is merely translated into smaller units of action. Supervision exists, but it is procedural. Compliance is measured against instruction, not outcome. A task completed exactly as ordered is recorded as successful, regardless of what follows. This is how the structure protects itself. Responsibility is distributed so evenly that it becomes indistinct. No single action appears decisive. No single decision appears fatal. The system's efficiency is visible in its silence. There are no arguments, no raised concerns, no competing directive. Everything aligns. The order continues downward, intact and unquestioned, supported by a structure built to ensure that once authority speaks, adaptation becomes unnecessary. By the time the lowest levels receive their instructions, the order feels inevitable. It has passed through too many hands to be altered. Too many confirmations have validated it. At this point, the structure is no longer responding to reality. Reality is expected to respond to the structure. And the structure does not bend. Execution begins without announcement. There is no formal moment when the order becomes active. No signal separates preparation from action. Tasks simply start occurring at the times assigned to them. Movements align with schedules already posted. Personnel arrive where they are expected to be, carrying what they have been told to carry, prepared to do exactly what has been outlined. Nothing feels unusual. The order does not introduce chaos. It produces coordination. Sequences unfold in parallel. Units move according to synchronized intervals. Transfers occur at designated points. Communications confirm progress using predetermined phrases. Each confirmation is brief, factual, and unembellished. Deviations are not reported because deviations have not been identified. The order specifies timing with precision. It defines when actions begin, when they conclude, and what follows immediately after. There is no allowance for pause, no provision for reassessment. Each step triggers the next, automatically. Personnel follow the instructions as they have been trained to do. Their attention is directed inward, toward checklists, signal, and alignment. Awareness of anything outside those parameters is unnecessary. The order has already accounted for what matters. Coordination replaces judgment. Synchronization replaces observation. The system functions like a machine, each component activated in sequence, each movement dependent on the one before it. Communications continue to flow upward and sideways, but only to confirm compliance. Reports contain no analysis. They consist of timestamps and confirmation. Everything is proceeding as planned. Everything is within tolerance. There is no space for interpretation. The order leaves no decisions open. When a condition is met, an action follows. When a signal is received, a response is triggered. The relationship between cause and effect is assumed, not examined. Silence fills the intervals between actions. Not the silence of hesitation, but the silence of routine. The absence of conversation is a sign of discipline. Talking would suggest uncertainty. The system does not require reassurance. As execution continues, minor irregularities appear at the margins. They are small, incomplete, easily categorized as temporary. They do not match any criteria that would justify interruption. They are therefore ignored. The order does not instruct anyone to stop, so no one does. Each task completed reinforces the legitimacy of the next. Momentum builds, not through urgency, but through accumulation. Once enough steps have been executed, reversal becomes impractical. Too many resources are already committed. Too many movements are already in progress. At no point does anyone assess the order as a whole. That perspective does not exist at this level. Each participant sees only their immediate responsibility, framed by procedure and time. The system interprets smooth execution as success. There is no mechanism to measure suitability mid-process. There is only adherence. As the final phases begin, confirmations continue to arrive. All elements are in position. All actions are aligned. The order has been executed exactly as written. The absence of resistance is total. What remains is not decision, but consequence, moving forward under the weight of flawless compliance. The first indications do not arrive as alarm. They appear as delays measured in minutes, not yet significant enough to register as faults. Timelines begin to stretch slightly, though still within acceptable margins. Reports note completion, but with minor variance. The language remains unchanged. Everything is still described as proceeding according to plan. The order does not account for these variances. It assumes alignment will persist. Signals arrive on time, but their effects lag. Movements complete, but not with the expected precision. Coordination holds, yet the edges begin to soften. The system registers these discrepancies as environmental noise, not structural failure. No corrective action is initiated. None has been authorized. As conditions shift, the order remains fixed. Its instructions do not adapt. Its sequence does not pause. Each phase continues to activate the next, regardless of what has already begun to diverge. Communications grow more frequent, but not more informative. Confirmations still arrive. They still meet the required format. The content does not change, because the framework does not allow it to. There is no category for uncertainty, only completion or delay. At certain points, actions produce results that do not align with expectation. These outcomes are recorded, but not interpreted. Interpretation would require discretion. Discretion is not part of the procedure. The system assumes that any inconsistency will resolve itself through continued execution. This assumption is embedded in the structure. Momentum is treated as stabilized. Stopping would introduce risk. Continuing feels safer. Requests for clarification are drafted, then abandoned. They would take too long. By the time a response arrived, the next phase would already be underway. The order does not wait. As execution progresses, the gap between instruction and reality widens. The environment no longer conforms as predicted. Movements interfere with one another. Timelines over. Resources arrive where they are no longer effective. Still, the order is followed. There is a moment when the discrepancy becomes visible across multiple levels at once. Not as a single realization, but as a pattern. Reports begin to echo the same irregularities. Delays compound. Outcomes repeat. Yet no one alters the instruction. To do so would require authority that has not been granted. The system is not designed for lateral correction. It can escalate issues upward, but escalation requires time. Time has already been allocated elsewhere. The order continues to move forward, unchanged, despite the growing evidence that its assumptions no longer hold. At this stage, the failure is no longer hypothetical. It has shape, it has momentum, it is embedded in the sequence itself, but the structure recognizes only orders, not outcomes, and the order remains in effect. The point at which the failure becomes unavoidable is not marked by a single event. It emerges gradually, through accumulation, through overlap, through the quiet realization that the system is no longer producing alignment, only continuation. Actions proceed, but their effects no longer correspond to their purpose. Movements reach positions that no longer matter. Resources arrive too late to be integrated, or too early to be sustained. Coordination persists in form, but not in function. The order continues to generate activity. It does not register that its own assumptions have collapsed. Each instruction still triggers execution. Each confirmation still reinforces legitimacy. The process remains intact, even as its outcome deteriorates. The scale of the failure through absence, rather than presence. Gaps form where results were expected. Connections fail to materialize. Elements that were meant to support one another operate independently, no longer synchronized. There is no moment of command-wide acknowledgement, no declaration that the situation has changed. The system does not possess language for that admission. It only recognizes completion or non-completion. As the consequences expand, responses remain procedural. Additional instructions are issued, but they do not replace the original order. They exist alongside it, layered on top of a structure already in motion. These additions do not correct the flaw. They amplify it. The environment absorbs the strain unevenly. Some areas become saturated with activity, others fall silent. The imbalance grows. What was once coordination becomes interference. What was once precision becomes congestion. Loss occurs, but it is not dramatized. It is recorded, tallied, noted in reports that continue to move upward through the same channels that carried the original order downward. The language remains neutral, the tone unchanged. No individual action stands out as decisive. No single failure can be isolated. Every step was executed correctly. Every instruction followed exactly. The collapse does not originate from error at the point of execution. It originates from rigidity. As the final phases unfold, the order completes itself. All scheduled actions are carried out. All timelines are exhausted. The system reaches the end of the sequence it was designed to perform. What remains is not victory, nor recovery, nor adjustment. What remains is the aftermath of a process that functioned perfectly while producing irreversible damage. The collapse does not feel sudden. It feels mechanical, predictable, almost orderly. By the time activity slows, the outcome is already fixed. There is nothing left to adjust. Nothing left to reinterpret. The order has finished executing. The consequences will continue. In the period that follows, activity does not stop. It changes shape. The system absorbs the results without interruption. Reports are compiled, sorted, and archived. Figures are verified. Timelines are reconstructed. Language is adjusted to maintain consistency. The order itself is referenced less and less, until it appears only indirectly, embedded in sequences and timestamps. No formal reckoning. There is no singular review that captures the entirety of what happened. The structure is not designed for that kind of reflection. It processes events by category, not by consequence. Responsibility disperses as documentation multiplies. Each record explains a fragment. Each fragment appears reasonable in isolation. When assembled, they do not form a narrative, they form a ledger. Personnel rotate, assignments change. Those who carried out the order move on to new schedules, new instructions, new environments. Their actions are not questioned. They acted within their authority. They followed procedure. The system does not mark the event as exceptional. It becomes one entry among many. Its scale is acknowledged only in aggregate, stripped of specificity. Loss is measured, not examined. Language softened where clarity might provoke discomfort. Terms are standardized. Deviations are reframed as contingencies. The order is never described as flawed. It is described as execute. There is no official silence. There is administrative quiet. The absence of discussion is not imposed. It is structural. Without a directive to analyze, analysis does not occur. New orders are issued. They resemble the old one. The format is the same. The channels are unchanged. Authority continues to move downward, cleanly and efficiently. The system's continuity is treated as evidence of resilience. The fact that it endured is taken as validation. Adaptation is not required if operation persists. Somewhere within the records, the failure exists as data. It can be accessed, cross-referenced, and summarized, but it is never confronted as a whole. The order that produced it is no longer active. It does not need to be corrected. It has already fulfilled its function. What remains is a structure ready to receive the next instruction. It will move with the same precision. It will demand the same obedience. And when the next order begins its descent, it will not remember this one.